I feel you guys. I know it's hard while you're running a spaces and preparing for a launch in the background. I will say though, when it comes to Aura and prediction markets and sports, I played the final game of my semi-pro basketball league last week. We lost and we finished in last place, but
Oh,
I will say, yeah, thanks. It was not cool, but you know, you live and you learn. I will say, we had a nice experience for the last game. Our starting center showed up late, so the coach, to punish him or really punish me, he made me play his position. So I'm 6'3" and I covered a 7 footer. So
oh,
you
jeez.
know, if you had to take a prediction market on that, how well would I fare? You wouldn't be betting on me, and I did not fare that well. I had a
No,
pretty
probably
poor
not.
showing. I had a pretty poor showing. So if you would have made a lot of money betting against our team, and specifically betting against me that game. So I can't wait till you guys go live because I'm probably going to spend way too much alpha on prediction markets, and you know I get into that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Me and Ralph or me and Ron are also really into it. Ron a lot more so than me. Ron's a certified gambler for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he comes off like he has a problem. I mean, we're probably going to send
Well,
Ron somewhere.
I think Ron does mostly like arb. He does mostly like arb bets, don't you, Ron? I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah, I'll take that as a yes. While Ron is trying to join us, I think he's having some technical issues. So, Ron, maybe you should leave the space and come back. It's usually what works when it comes to Twitter. We have a couple of, I guess, updates to quickly discuss when it comes to the Alephium ecosystem. The Lithium team was at the Bitcoin conference, which is always good, showing up, representing. Mode was at the World Digital Mining Summit, which was at around the same time. And she was on a panel by Bitmain, and she had a really strong showing. If you haven't seen the panel, it's only about 15 minutes, but it's worth checking out because Maud spoke about Alephium's role in the real world asset space, and the importance of having proof of work, and the way Alephium designed its emission schedule to be protracted to keep miners invested, unlike a lot of proof of work cryptocurrencies, which have kind of a emission schedule. It's very concentrated. Alephium has been thinking about going long term and keeping miners in ALF for the long term. So I think it's a really cool panel, well worth your time if you're in the ecosystem. Give it 15 minutes. Mode, as always, impresses. The other thing that I think we should bring up is you may have noticed MEXC, our esteemed exchange, has stopped offering futures on Alephium. Some people thought that was good news. Some people thought that was bad news. But in general, I think it's good news because MEXC has a bad reputation of manipulating futures. So I actually think it's going to help stabilize the price of ALF by not having futures in MEXC. So I think those are the kind of main things that we need to cover. And, Aura is on testnet as well. Another important thing to discuss. But that's kind of the housekeeping. Ron, are you back with us?
Test, test, test.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank God.
There's no Ron for quite some time, but I mean, we just went over the kind of news and updates. Alephium at the World Digital Mining Summit at Bitcoin 2025. So that's the housekeeping. I think we can kind of get this space started because we have two devs who we are very lucky have chosen to build on Alephium. Hayden, who's doing Aura with Ron, prediction markets, and Ben, who's doing Alpaca Finance, peer-to-peer lending protocol, also in Alephium. So, guys, happy to have you here.
Thanks. Good to be here. Is Ben still here?
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
still here.
Ben's here.
Do we want to start with Aura first, or do we? I don't know how we want to do this.
You know what? Why don't we just one thing I'd like to know is because I know both of you guys kind of through the um, Alephium ecosystem. I was just kind of interested in how you guys started deving on Alf. Um, and Ben, if you want to take the lead on that one, I'd appreciate it.
The short answer is I wanted to make money. But no,
Don't we all?
I was pretty interested in it, and there's quite a bit of like work that goes into it, and so it's not exactly a linear curve. I really was just interested in trying to actually make something that I felt wasn't total vaporware, and I'm still not entirely there yet, but I think I'm heading in the right direction for actual like utility over what's considered a lot of the space being vaporware. So, um, I like doing that type of development, and it's nice to be able to just kind of interact with the chain in a different way rather than being somebody who's strictly like just buying things or marketing or something like that. So I
Yeah.
like this
How?
side of the scope.
Yeah. How did you come to Lithium specifically? Like, what was it that brought you to this chain?
I think I was fed up with the other chain that I was on. I'm gonna leave names out because I don't
Yeah.
wanna bash anybody, but I was fed up with the previous place where I was, and so I just felt that this was easier to migrate to, and it's easier to develop on. So um, I think it's honestly probably the easiest platform to develop on, honestly. So
So
that's
let me stop you right there. So for people who don't know much about being a dev or you were saying, is it the programming language? Is it Ralph that makes it so easy to develop on the Lithium? What makes it so appealing? As because obviously every chain wants to bring in developers, right? Everybody wants people to come to develop on their chain. What makes it so appealing? Is it the programming language? Is it something else? Is it give us a little bit for like
well,
the lay
I
people.
it might be kind of interesting, but I'm not actually interested much in I guess the crypto Twitter type sphere type thing. I'm more interested in the GitHub side of things, and so to see this platform be so active compared to others is something that immediately catches my eye. And we're not seeing like empty commits here. I mean, these are people who are actively working to make this space better as a whole, and so you just don't see that every day. It's pretty rare, and you know, I think in terms of Ralph compared to EVM, and you have native Rust on Solana, and there's Python EVM, which is called Viper. There's Move, there's and I'm blanking on the last one, the Cosmwasm. You won't find anything that's easier to just get yourself jump started with in terms of A, the amount of code that you're going to write, but B, the verbose code that you'll find. It's just easier to write code that's actually readable rather than maybe in this case extremely flexible. But you get the
Okay.
best of both worlds with
With Ralph.
Ralph, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you, I got a very similar answer when we were in Athens last summer at the meetup. There's about 50, 60 people who showed up. Um, and there were a few devs who came over from Solana. And their reasons for coming over and deciding to, begin work on Alephium were exactly the ones you said, actually almost verbatim. One was the fact that Ralph was so easy to jump into. And the second was, and I think anybody who wants to invest in any kind of cryptocurrency should look at the GitHub commits because anybody can fake viral engagement, right? You can pay a bot farm just to say X crypto is the best, but GitHub is hard to fake. Actually, I'm having an echo, so I'm going to try to rejoin the space. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
I can.
Okay. This echo is a little off. So Yeah, Ben, I mean, so I totally get why you came over, and it was kind of this cool environment where people are actually building things. The GitHub commits are legit, and that's probably what separates it. I'm assuming from most cryptos where it's vaporware and bots saying we're the best.
Yeah, I guess to add to that, in addition to the kind of peer-to-peer lending protocol that I built, you know, also scaled out an NFT marketplace, which is still in progress, and I am looking to build something new. Not sure what that'll be exactly, but it is going to be, finance related, and so um, I'm definitely going to take the next leap with the next project to just kind of full send it to basically very entry level to um, what I consider to be a lot of months worth of work and probably more unit testing than I can possibly comprehend. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, and I can just add that I'm a proud holder of an alpaca NFT, so I dig him.
Have
I
you
like that.
you you
I like the
you
style.
you've migrated or you're still on V1?
I don't know. Actually, I must be still on V1 then. I need to migrate. So I got one of the OG ones. I probably need to migrate.
Yep.
Um,
Because if you migrate, then you don't have to pay royalties, and you also what is it? The image is also hosted on Arweave, so there's no depreciation. And so rather than oh, the other thing too, a lot of projects try to like make a project and then they don't actually ever kind of scale it or do anything with it. These are now immutable, and they actually got an enhancement to the migration. So it's mutually beneficial for everybody.
all right. Well, that's something I'm gonna do then ASAP. Hayden, what about you? What got you into Alephium? What got you deving over here?
Sure. So I mean, it's pretty similar to what Ben was saying, in regards to like we all want to make money, right? I mean, other than like advancing technology, we all are really in this to make money. And I guess I could start with how I found Alephium in the first place. Um, I'm not exactly sure how I found it, but I believe it was because I was getting into mining again, um, and I looked at the mining profitability, and that led me to Alephium because we were obviously number one for a long time. I'm not sure where we're at now, but it was the most profitable coin, right, to mine. And so that's how I like initially found out about Alephium. And then obviously, like after looking into it, I realized that the chain really stood out, and to me, it seemed like it has a lot of potential, a lot of real potential. I know Ben talked about vaporware, and a lot of crypto out there is mostly vaporware. So it's nice to see something that's actually actively building and active on like GitHub and actually like developing, right? Um, so after I did like a lot of research into Alephium, after a few months, I decided to convert all of my Caspa that I was holding to Alephium. um, and for months, right? Like this happened like last year, maybe around like July is when I first got into it. Um, and ever since then, I've been trying to figure out how to add value to the space. Do I want to develop something, and what is it going to be, right? So I guess like my question was like, what could I what could I build to bring value to the chain? And that's when I came up with the idea for Aura. I really do believe it could onboard new users from outside the ecosystem and help grow adoption for Alephium in a really meaningful way. And so I guess that's kind of the reason I did it, because I think it's gonna pump all of our bags up, right? Like I think it's gonna bring greater adoption, hopefully, to the space.
All right. I mean, I think anybody who wants to invest in any cryptocurrency should at least take some time and go on the GitHub, because ultimately, if there's no commits and nobody's doing anything on it, I mean, you're investing in a ghost chain, right? And
Mhm.
if it's an active chain with a lot of development, developers are coming over, it probably bodes well for the future. But I think the average person who invests in cryptocurrencies isn't going on to GitHub, isn't looking at the commits. It's most likely they're measuring the temperature based on, Twitter profiles, Twitter likes, and like the dreaded influencers who, I mean, they'll shill anything if you pay them. So I think GitHub, both you and Ben have mentioned GitHub being a major reason why you joined Alephium. I think GitHub should be, even for the average layman cryptocurrency investor, they should spend some time on GitHub. Maybe a little more time on GitHub, maybe a little less time on Twitter, even though we're on Twitter right now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's from the developer point of view, right? So like the first thing we do is check GitHub to see how active the team is. It makes sense, right? Yeah. I guess
Ron, are you
I
back?
guess you could also ask like what like why I chose Lithium as for Aura. Um, it's really for the reasons I mentioned before, but it's also like obviously Lithium's really scalable with its sharded architecture, um, and it makes it perfect for something like Aura, where users can make a lot of like really small trades. So you need low fees and fast settlements, and I think Lithium handles that really well. And it also means that because our ecosystem is so young, it means that obviously Aura is the first mover for prediction markets on Alephium, right? And it's not only like a first mover on Alephium, but it also offers um, a ton of different features and benefits. And there's a lot more like in Aura than there are on other major chains that have billions in volume, right?
And listen, I think we discussed this last time, but prediction markets are really, I think, one of the unique factors of blockchain. They can do something that you don't get in other places due to how they're structured based on people putting crypto down on what they think will happen, that changing the odds. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Ben, let me ask you this: how did you? Yeah, my mic sounds okay. How did you use oracles on Alephium? I
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask more about this. And am I echoing for you guys? Because I can hear a little echo.
You sound fine to me.
Yeah.
What I mainly wanted to ask was a little bit, but I really how does
You're breaking up a bit for me, Ron. I don't know if anyone
chain?
else can hear you.
Yep. I'm getting the same thing. He's not coming through
Why
very
don't you
well at
just
all.
type out your message in chat and I'll read it for you?
I guess I can explain a little bit about how the Oracle works.
So
Basically,
I'll
we're
ask. So Ben, I'll just ask for Ron. Ron's basically been kidnapped by some kind of AI fucking thing. So we can just pretend he's not here. Hopefully he comes back. But basically, the question was, how did you manage to get a lithium altcoin pricing in smart contracts for things like ALPH and so on?
well, we're aggregating prices off pools on Lithium, so we're taking those as direct calls on a server, and then we're autonomously checking prices, every minute or so, looking for high deviation. And this is often referred to as like the heartbeat or the pulse, similar to how the DIA oracles work and how they're also looking for a similar type of deviation or incremental time shift in which they'll update their own prices. So um, it's either or, some Boolean type logic that you're using to, go about doing that. But um, long story short, we are autonomously doing that, and then we're autonomously updating those prices on chain, which costs me money, but it also costs money to actually perform transactions on Lithium. Luckily, um, the fee is so cheap, it doesn't really add up to a whole lot. Probably close to 10 or 20 ALF is enough to get you through the entire year, probably.
10 or 20 ALF. That's it. Okay. So Ben, do you want to give us any background on what you're building on Alephium, specifically the peer-to-peer lending tool that's coming?
Yeah, so I am working the lending tool. The scope of it is getting to be quite large, and it's probably going to be honestly a three-parter, um, as in like three different DeFi components plus lending. So we'll see on how it goes, but it's shaping up to be more work than intended, for sure. So um,
So
definitely
it's
going
going to
to
be
have to.
bigger than just lending. There's more DeFi that you're kind of playing around with.
It's going to be bigger than lending, probably bigger than AlpacaFi. AlpacaFi sits on the website pretty well right now. This might be a little bit more advanced than the current site and what would look good. Um, so in terms of that, I am trying to create some type of AMM type market, and so hopefully um, that ends up being quite successful.
Okay, so you're not just stopping with lending, you're building a whole DeFi suite of tools under the AlpacaFi umbrella, or is this going to be something slightly different?
We'll see. It's still definitely a work in progress, and it's got more contracts than anything I've seen so far, I think, on Lithium that's open source. So um, probably closing in on close to 20 or 30 contracts at this point. Um, and a lot of that is compart compartmentalizing a lot of the functions and cleaning it up, but also making it publicly accessible through interfaces and composable code that's reusable. So,
I mean, listen, I think for those of you who don't develop or don't know much about developing, Ben making his work open source is huge. I mean, he's doing the Lord's work, because when you make your code open source, you're helping other builders, you're contributing to the ecosystem, and it's something definitely to be commended. So I think we as a community, we appreciate that, because in a way you're kind of laying the foundations for Alephium, and other builders will benefit from that. So it's kind of this crypto public good that's being done.
well,
um
there's frankly no reason not to go open source. If what you're trying to achieve is equivalent to a network effect, then sure, onboard users and then um, proceed with, being the
yeah
first there to be in the market. That's basically all you need. But once you make yourself open source, you increase yourself to a variety of different applications, in which case, the prime example is if you make a lending protocol and you have open source access to the most popular DEX on Lithium, you can make direct calls via them, and you don't have to build out your own thing. You can use liquidity that's already available, and everybody wins. So to not do it, I think, is kind of slapping your own project in the face a little bit. But that's just my own opinion. You're going to open yourself up to more fees, more revenue. It's a no-brainer.
Great. What about you, Hayden? I mean, do you have any takes on the whole open source thing? Or, I mean, is Aura completely open source?
Oh, well, obviously we're not open source at the moment, as we build, but it's definitely something I've thought about. I think that Ben makes a lot of great points when it comes to open sourcing projects. I think that most likely what we'll do is we'll keep it closed source for a short period of time after launch, and then we'll open it up, right? Um, at least
Well,
because a lot of
that's
go ahead.
that's the special thing is that Aura becomes the base layer, and now people can build on top of it.
Right, right. I mean, I don't know. I haven't given it much thought, to be honest with you. Um, Open source is always good, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hayden, that's why we have these spaces, man. We're trying to we're trying to bring up these topics and get people thinking about how to approach these things. But yeah, I mean, I think you guys both have really cool projects that we're happy are being developed here on Alephium. And I think the key thing for any chain is to bring in users. And if you make dApps that people want to use, they're going to come over. If you have a good DeFi sweet, people are going to want to use it. If it's user friendly, if it's safe, people are going to want to use it. If you look at prediction markets, I think poly markets on Ethereum, I think they do like $1 billion in revenue like it's crazy. They do a ton of revenue over there.
Billion.
So
They do billions and billions in revenue. It's kind of crazy, actually.
yeah, I actually think they do $1 billion in revenue per like month. So just for perspective, I think their revenue is completely wild. So, I think that's the key thing is building dApps that people want to use, and then users will come over. And I think one thing that we have on Alephium, and it's been a core principle, Micah talked about this during the summit, is prioritizing user experience. And if you look at the wallet, it's it's exactly that. It's one of the best wallets I think in the space. So I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. We want to bring in people. We want to bring more users over, and I think you guys building AlpacaFi and Aura is exactly that.
For sure. I agree. Just speaking on one more thing about Polymarket, because it's the best example you can use for a prediction market. Most people know what it is. Um, Something that they don't do that we are doing is allowing users to create their own markets, which is huge, right? Like if you look at some of the most recent popular markets on Polymarket, you can see like they had one for who the new pope was going to be, and that one had I think like 1.6 or maybe $2 billion in volume, right? And if you were the creator of that market on Aura, you would have made, I don't know, $12 million or something close to that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think just giving
Wow.
users more opportunity to make money is a good thing, and to be less centralized is also a great thing.
I mean that's quite the incentive. If you make a very popular prediction market, the fact that you can walk away with that much money is pretty impressive. I want to mention one thing before we go, and we want you all to mint your presence using Presence Protocol. If you mint your presence, and we choose you, you will get a reward. I believe it's in Alephium tokens, and the password for Presence Protocol is GOAT. So we'll repeat that later, but the password for Presence Protocol is GOAT, and you will be getting Alephium ecosystem tokens as a reward. So meet your presence, get some free tokens, and the password is GOAT. So yeah, Ben, I think everybody's been dying to ask you one question, and I wish it was, what's your Batman origin story? But it's actually why alpacas. Um, Tell us why you chose alpacas as your spirit animal.
Because it flows well with the lithium. That's about the only answer I can give you.
I thought it would be some kind of more kind of like wild answer because I actually have a colleague who's a relatively well-known genre filmmaker, and he adapted a H.P. Lovecraft novel called Color Out of Space. And it was a relatively big film with Nicolas Cage. And obviously, when you make a film like that, you make a lot of creative liberties, right? So in the novel, he's just some guy who's in this made up town in Massachusetts. But the director actually decided to make one big change, one big liberty. He made him an alpaca farmer in Massachusetts. Why? I don't know. But he just really likes alpacas. So, they're a cool animal. They're a strange animal, but I think in your case, alpaca, lithium, it rhymes. It's close, and it's good enough. I'll take that.
Yeah, especially because you can say alpaca. That's like the key thing here. If we're going just in terms of like favorite animals, then I don't think you can beat a capybara. That would be my true rival if I had one.
Yeah, that one just rolls off the tongue though. So alpaca's pretty. I'll take that one. All right, guys. Let me see this. Are there any new features in the Lithium roadmap you guys are excited about? We obviously have the Danube upgrade coming. Are there any things coming up that you guys are excited about as developers?
Sure. I think something that I'm most excited about is the groupless addresses for users, just coming from a user experience perspective. I think that that's my favorite feature is definitely just ease of use for new users to be able to use dApps on the network.
What about you, Ben?
Probably most interested in the ZK, just because I think that there's going to be a lot of things that VK proofs will bring to just the space as a whole. I think the technology is probably above a lot of people's heads, including my own. But I'm really interested in taking a break after my current project and really trying to understand the technology at a really high level. So I think that ability to verify something in the real world with a proof is incredibly valuable. And that also enhances privacy too. So in terms of people wanting to act anonymously, should be some good improvements there, I think, as well.
So, speaking of getting to know the technology, are there any resources you wish existed on Alephium as devs? So, like libraries or anything like that that would have made your journey as a Alephium developer, you know, easier, more attainable.
For me, I mean, I think the docs do a decent job covering everything you need to know to build with the language, but I do think there needs to be better like error messages. Um, I don't know. I think that it's pretty comprehensive, to be honest with you. It takes a while. Like it took me a little bit to get used to the language, but I think it's been a great experience overall. Um, I think that for me personally, I know it's different for Ben, but for me personally, like Aura was my first project on Alephium, so because it was so complex, it's the smart contracts are so complex. It took me a while to get used to it and to get the hang of everything. But once I got through the learning curve, I found it very elegant and very powerful. To be honest with you, and obviously the dev community in Alephium is super supportive, which helped a lot.
And then don't forget, Hayden, Ben has a series of tutorial videos out on YouTube. So any new developer or anybody who's thinking about developing on Lithium can check those out. All you got to do is send him an alpaca. I think it's an alpaca for a year-long membership. So it's a good deal if you ask me. So yeah, Ben, we appreciate those videos you've done. It's a great way for developers to kind of dip their toes, and the price is really fair. So check his videos out. Ben, if you want to shill your channel, feel free. But those are the
Uh,
kind of things that I think make it easier for devs coming over.
yeah, I think the one thing we're missing is a like playground. If you look at a lot of um, smart contract programming languages, I think the one that sticks out to me is Solana's playground, but you're actually able to like create a like a window with a basic template and actually interact with it.
Okay.
And we just don't have that. So I think having that would be cool. And it gets people kind of without all the development steps, you can kind of dip your toes in the water and see if it's even worth it. And
See if it's worth it.
people need
I'm
that push because that's the push that gets you to go the rest of the way.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's something that we should seriously consider because like you said, having a playground is something that, you have somebody who's maybe flirting with the ecosystem, they're thinking about doing something, and maybe that's what's going to get them to take that plunge, right? If they have something like that. So it's probably well worth it because it'll probably bring over a bunch of new devs who are, on the fence, should I, shouldn't I? So I like that idea a lot, and that's something we should definitely discuss internally because it's something that's probably worth really really pushing. Um, so I love that idea. I have been told, and I've been reminded because I don't check my phone, but I am checking my phone because I have 89 messages from Baby, and Alephium will be posting ecosystem highlights in a couple minutes. So that's something you guys should keep an eye out. Ecosystem highlights on Alephium will be posted. And let me mention it once more because I do feel like I'm selling something right now. Mint your presence. If you mint your presence, you will get Alephium ecosystem tokens and the presence protocol password is GOAT. GOAT. Like Michael Jordan is the GOAT. So it's GOAT. So yeah, I feel like I'm gonna keep shilling that. Please do that because we love when people mint their presence. It shows that, Alephium, we pride ourselves that we don't have bots or none of our spaces are botted. It's all real Alephium users and people interested in the ecosystem. So mint your presence, get a reward. Each and every space, we're gonna do that. Um, so please do that. Guys, let me ask you one thing, kind of a more broad question. How did you guys get involved in crypto? And I'll give you a little bit of background on me because it's a somewhat of a strange story. I was in Bratislava like 8 years ago for a weekend. And Bratislava is a very small capital of Slovakia. I was just there for the weekend visiting. And Bratislava has a crypto cafe. And it's a cafe where you can only pay using crypto. And the whole idea is to educate people on cryptocurrencies. So at that time, I think you could only pay using like Bitcoin and like Litecoin. It was like only two or three cryptos you could use. But that cafe was my first kind of encounter with the world of crypto and what it offers. And then obviously, I have an interest in money, in the whole idea of money, what it is, a ledger system, the history of money, and then obviously those two things merged and so on. So how did you guys get involved in crypto in general?
Sure. I can go first. I mean, I guess I don't know if I can necessarily say how I got involved in crypto at first, but it was back in like 2012, 2013 when I was in high school during the first Bitcoin bull run. Um, I bought a few things off the internet, and that's how I first got into cryptocurrency. You guys can infer what you want from that.
Hey, listen,
It,
Hayden, it's all good. The FBI is listening to this phone call, so it's fine. Don't
it's
worry. Just
fine.
keep
I mean,
going.
it was over 10 years ago. I think we're all good. But anyway, that's how I first got into Bitcoin. That's how I first heard about it. I think Bitcoin was worth, I don't know, $200 or $300 at the time. I wish I didn't spend it. I wish I held it instead, but I used it for its purpose, which is a good thing, right? Um, other than that, right? Like throughout the last 10 years, I guess it always clicked for me that cryptocurrency was going to be a big thing. I think that a lot of people think about it in hindsight, but I knew from the very beginning. And since then, I've been in and out of crypto. I ran a mining operation, just researching, and I don't know. I'm in and out every bull run. I stacked during the bears, and that's what really got me into crypto in the first place, I guess. What kept me there was learning about the technologies and what's really possible in the space.
So then, in a very odd way, what you just said is probably because I know Aura is your first. It's your first project that you've actually built. So you've really kind of like your backstory really speaks highly of Alephium because you've been in the space since the beginning, more or less, right? 2012, right? That's
Right.
like
Yeah.
early days.
Yeah.
And you were using Bitcoin for its original purpose, which is you're paying for transactions because you're buying, I don't know, Pokemon cards or whatever.
Right.
You're buying like whatever, the Michael Jordan rookie card. So you're doing like legal things with Bitcoin.
Of course.
And yeah, of course. And it was used for as a transaction, kind of digital money. And you've been around for a while, but you've been involved in mining. But this is the first protocol you've built, Aura, and you chose Alephium. So for somebody who's basically an OG, who's been around since pretty much the beginning, choosing to build your first project on Alephium, I think speaks volumes. I mean, you could have gone on any chain. You've been around long enough. You've seen chains come and go. You chose Alephium. To me, I think that speaks volumes.
Sure. I mean, my last pick, last crypto cycle, what I went all in on was Cardano. I did really well in Cardano, and I hope to do the same thing in Alephium. I think that it's blatantly obvious that Alephium is going to be a top 10 crypto one day. It's just a matter of time and adoption, and trying to not get drowned out in the noise of the thousands of vaporware coins that are around us and above us in the ranks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. So I think great story. What about you, Ben?
I think it was just the fact that I could utilize my 1060 while not gaming, um, and make a little bit of coin on the side. Um, that was probably the nice hash days, but that was probably around 2021, which is probably about the second or third bull run. I don't know what the relative dates are, but um, yeah, I felt like it was interesting, and for a while I was a strong believer in not running the math on these crazy market caps. Now I know much better. There's a lot of things that won't ever reach a lot of uh, what's the word? Clickbait title posts. Um, at least not in a long time for sure. Um, but yeah, I've changed roles quite a bit. From like very entry level miner to like basically not mining at all to um, basically not really being either of those and just being just a full on developer. So um, and now I guess the logical path leads to being a contributor at some point. So um, I think with a lot of the background that I have in school, that definitely seems like the right path to go towards.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are both kind of cool paths to take. I'm getting a bunch of personal messages. Dio Mark told me that his first experience with crypto was using a miner as a space heater. So there's that. You put your gaming hardware to use, and Dio Mark needed a space heater. So everybody's got a different path to cryptocurrencies, and um I think the key thing is that you come here, that you stay, and you guys have become now contributors. You guys are building on lithium and are not just kind of bystanders. You're actually builders, and I think that's what's going to make this chain really flourish.
Well, yeah, I'm looking to get involved specifically with I think the VM. So not even the smart contract or like a contributor in that sense, but very interested to see how the actual how the car works, if that's the analogy I'm gonna give. Um, and perhaps even take the car and turn it into a project car. So that analogy is the best one that jives with me. So we'll see where it goes, but there's a lot of stuff to do before that can happen.
Well, that makes sense to me. So I think you're going to go deeper and deeper into this whole world. So that works. Let me see. We have a good crew of people here, and I think our actually spaces has only been increasing with listeners. We've actually grown throughout the space. Most spaces contract, we expand. So that's Aletheum. If any of the listeners have a question for Hayden and Ben, two devs building on Alephium, raise your hand and we will make you a speaker. So if you have a question you want to ask, why don't you do that now? And I'm just going to tell you once again, please mint your presence, use presence protocol, mint your presence, win some Alephium ecosystem tokens, and the password is GOAT. And why not? So I don't see anybody raising their hand, but I am getting a question text. I'm getting a text question. Ben, you did some exercises to find limits on ALF. Can you expand on that? And thank you, Mark, for that question.
I'm not done testing. I still have a lot of things that I'd like to try and break. There's actually been a lot of things that I guess with my experimental nature of really trying to just do wacky things. Just in the space and using kind of the chain as almost a database in some sense. Because let's be honest, a perpetual server running is, going to cost you money, but you can pay the minimal entry, contract deposit, and the chain is being ran by itself. So there's benefits, there's pros and cons, but playing with it in unique ways. Still looking to kind of see what the limits are. How much gas can I possibly consume with said, instruction. Um, and so just trying to make things more efficient. And I'll learn as I go, but basically there's probably more efficient ways to write Ralph, rather than, calling a certain function. You can maybe assign that function to a variable and then call that variable throughout the contract, which would avoid having to make external function calls and perhaps use more gas in that case. But um, yeah, so just looking to kind of see where the limits break. Really looking to get into making um, some type of hash tree that is special in some sense. A lot of algorithms to kind of determine, what values you've already been through based on some of that. And so we'll see where it leads.
I think that's fantastic. And let me end on a personal anecdote. So one of the reasons I came over to Alephium is Ben. So I was aware of Ben's work on another chain we won't name. And he was a dev that I liked and I respected. And I think we both had the same frustration, let's put it like that, with the previous chain. And then Ben told me about Alephium, what was happening, and so on. So my first kind of exposure to Alephium, and this was a while ago, was through Ben. And the reason that I took it so seriously is because I liked what he was doing and his passion and his developing for the other chain. And I think we shared the frustration of what was happening. I was involved in helping that chain in some kind of media aspects. Let's leave it at that. But that's how I got exposed to Alephium. It was actually through Ben, and he had a lot of good things to say. When I went into Alephium, explore the ecosystem, start speaking with the team, looking at what was happening, I was really blown away. And kind of like what Hayden said, um, found basically saw it as a no-brainer, like this chain is going to take off. And then when I went to Athens, it just cemented it to me. I met the core team, I saw what they're doing, I saw what their vision was, I was all in. And Hayden, like you, I was also in Cardano last cycle. And I really think what Alephium is doing, and I do like the whole proof of work aspect of it. That's very appealing to me. So when I saw what Alephium was doing, when I went to the meetup in Athens, I was pretty much, you know, all in that this is going to go somewhere special. So yeah, so that's kind of my background, small little kind of personal connection there. And like I said, what the reason I wanted to check out Alephium was not because of some influencer, right? Because all of these KOLs and influencers, they'll shill anything if you pay them. Like these people in general have no values. They will shill whatever you pay them for. But a developer like Ben, who cares about what he's doing? He's not going to another chain just because. He's going because there's legitimate reasons. So all I can say is if you're thinking about investing in the chain or being involved in an ecosystem, check out the GitHub commits, look at who's building there. Maybe refrain from the influencers because, I mean, listen, those people are like the scum of the earth. Like, if we're being honest, they're the scum of the earth. But anyway, um, that being said, yeah, mint your presence. The password is GOAT. And this has been a really fun space. I hope we do more spaces with developers because these are the people that are going to make the ecosystem really come to life and flourish. And they're going to bring in users. The DApps are going to bring in users. All this other stuff is, it comes and goes. We have Danube coming, the Danube upgrade, which is really exciting. That's going to be a huge thing for Alephium, groupless addresses, like Hayden said, um, more security, faster block times. It's going to be huge, and that's that's what we have to say. And then we're going to have another space, I believe, next Friday, and that's going to be with the Gigatons crew. So that should be pretty exciting. I hope all you guys show up and ask questions. And I'm glad you came here. This has actually been one of the more invigorating and fun spaces because we're out here just talking to people who have skin in the game, right? They're putting their time and effort into building on Alephium, and that means they're truly committed. There's no bullshit here. So Hayden, thank you. Ben, thank you. Aura is on testnet. Alpaca Phi is going to go beyond is going to go beyond lending and offer a DeFi suite of tools. We don't know exactly what it's going to be because Ben is keeping that a little secretive for now, which is great.
All
But I'm
all
sure it's
all
going to
I
be something
all I
fantastic.
can say is that everything I do is open source, and that's that's everything. Yep, that's all I'm gonna say.
All right. Well, all I'm going to say is I'm excited to see what happens, and then as the DeFi suite comes and is ready for mainnet, we'll have you on again. We'll discuss it. I look forward to it. And Hayden, Aura is on testnet. I'm assuming mainnet is coming pretty soon, right?
Yeah, we obviously have to go to audit first, and we're going to do our pre-sale obviously before mainnet. We're going to announce the pre-sale date very soon. Probably next week we'll announce a pre-sale date. And obviously after the pre-sale we'll do audits and then push right to mainnet after we account for the audits.
Okay.
Just one more thing, I just want to say thanks for having us on. It's I don't get to talk to people about developing very much, so it's nice to kind of share what we're doing with the community, give like our opinion on things. And the other thing, I know that you were mentioning. I know we're trying to wrap things up, but I know you were mentioning KOLs earlier and how those kind of shill everything. And that's kind of one of the main reasons why I decided to bake so much incentive into Aura for users to share the platform with other people, right? Like we're going to have, and we do currently have a 10% referral fee. So if you refer another user, you get 10% of their trading fees for life. And then obviously, because users create their own markets, users are proposing markets. That all incentivizes users to share their platform and to share the markets with the world, right? So essentially, the users should be sharing and marketing for us, which is a big deal in the crypto space.
No, listen, I think that's a huge deal because if you have the proper incentives, I think that that work will take care of itself. So the fact that you're giving 10% to people who refer somebody, I mean, I think that's going to incentivize you. And you said it's 10% lifetime, right?
Yeah, 10% lifetime fees for anyone you refer.
I mean, that's the kind of incentives that I think people are going to work to get people using Aura because that's a pretty nice incentive. And I don't think I've seen anybody really take that kind of approach. So I'm a fan of that. I like the incentives. I like what you guys are doing. So hopefully we can bring in a lot of users and Aura becomes one of the leading prediction markets in the crypto space. That's what I'm hoping happens.
For sure, and I'm also really excited to see what Ben's project is. I've heard a lot about it, and I'm a fan of his work. So we'll see. We'll see what it is.
Yeah, and Hayden, I'm getting a text. Do you have a bug bounty for Aura? Is that something you want to mention before we get off?
Sure. So we're currently doing a bug bounty program. It's super simple. It's just a little widget in the bottom right that says "Report a bug." You click on it on the website, and then just give us a description of what you experienced, and you get rewarded with ALPH for it. So there's low, medium, and high. I believe in terms of levels of like criticality. And we'll if the bug is valid and it's a real bug, then we'll send you out for it, which is pretty huge. We're running other giveaways and stuff, but that's what the bug bounty is.
All right. I mean, I think the fact that you can get Alf for finding a bug is going to motivate enough people to check out the testnet. I'm looking at a few users in our group here. I'm sure they'll be on there. So that's fantastic, guys. Yeah, I mean, let's just now wrap it up. Thank you, Hayden and Ben, for showing up, for talking about your experience developing on Alephium, how you came to crypto, how you chose Alephium. We appreciate having you guys here. I mean, Alephium is really you guys. Without you guys, we don't have an ecosystem. So the fact that you guys are building dApps that people are going to use, that's how we grow. You guys are Alephium. So we really appreciate having this space where we can talk about developing, but also make it accessible to people who aren't devs. They can get a sense of, what you guys are thinking about, how you chose Alephium, the whole process of building. So it was fantastic. I hope we can make spaces like this with devs, a regular thing. So let me conclude with two things. One, please mint your presence. You'll get Alephium tokens. I don't know which ones, but I'm sure they'll be fine. And the the password is GOAT. And the second thing is the Danube upgrade is coming. It's coming soon, hopefully, and that's going to lead to a lot of exciting things for Lithium, and I guess 2B, because Baby keeps reminding me about this. Ecosystem highlights will be posted soon, so check that out. There's some cool ecosystem highlights. So till next week, when we have a space with gigatons, I hope all you guys show up and keep showing up, because these weekly spaces are something we're going to keep doing. And this one's been a blast. So, guys, thank you so much. And see you guys next week.